Quantum tunneling? No. Self-aware electrons that know they are being watched? No. These are physical effects that have not been interpreted correctly. The double slit experiment isn't easy to understand. Light, or what we think is light, is two parts. Electromagnetic, electro or electric, and magnetic. The double slit experiment shows light passing through two slits without detectors, and there is an interference pattern. When a detector is added to the experiment, the light somehow knows it's being watched and lines up into two slits instead of an interference pattern. There is no quantum tunneling going on, there is no interference pattern, and light as we know it is not self-aware and it doesn't know it's being watched. What is really happening is when light, which is electromagnetic, goes to its destination without detection, light follows the path of magnetic field lines it emits, whereas when light that passes by a detector is stripped of its magnetic vectors and behaves like a particle instead of a wave. Without the magnetism of the light particle, light would emit from the sun in a single beam instead of how it does now, in all directions due to magnetic field line dispersal. A wave denotes movement. The double slit experiment without a detector does not show wave motion, it's showing magnetic field lines of the light which are interpreted as interference incorrectly. There is no physical movement of light in the interference pattern, it sits idly still without visible oscillations. Passing light by a detector strips the light of its magnetic vectors, resulting in what appears to be light behaving as a particle, when in fact light is showing you what it looks like with its magnetism gone. Another misinterpretation of the data. The difference between magnetic light and light stripped of its magnetism is that light is now electric and not electromagnetic and is superconducting at room temperature or in its superconductive state. The magnetic part which causes resistance is gone, meaning that is light that produces no heat. Superconductors have little to no resistance in them. Light stripped of its magnetic vectors also exhibits zero transverse wave movement and instead displays longitudinal wave properties which are mistaken as particle behavior. Transverse movement is side-to-side movement producing waves, whereas longitudinal waves appear to be particles because they lack side movement and only move forward. To simplify for the viewer, bullets traveling out of a gun does so longitudinally and not transversely. The light viewed from the side after the detector would show longitudinal wave structure. The thing is, no one has ever gone looking, and I don't have that kind of equipment to do so myself. I was, however, going to try this experiment with something silly which I realized would not work, a tool demagnetizer. Realizing that would only demagnetize metal, that wouldn't work with light, that is when I realized the detectors in the experiment already being run are demagnetizing the light. Radiation also exhibits this longitudinal behavior, which is why radiation has no magnetic component and is classified as a particle, when radiation moves longitudinally. Radiation burns for this very reason, because the wave or particle moves longitudinally and goes between bigger particles, causing atomic friction and displacement, that is described as radiation burns, which should be called longitudinal burns. The particle is not tunneling magically from one place to another. When light is stripped of its magnetic vectors, it can travel between a medium with larger particles, and that would be incorrectly called quantum tunneling when it's not. That effect cannot happen unless the magnetic vectors are stripped from a wave. Think of the wave as rolls of fat around your body as transverse waves, and you want to get through a small door but cannot transversely. If you shed the rolls of fat, you can move through the door, the rolls of fat being magnetic vectors. It's not quantum tunneling. It's just changing light from transverse to longitudinal state, which will allow it to pass between atoms that are bigger than light, not through them like some magical fantasy make-believe. Reminder: governments worldwide are spending billions on researching quantum tunneling. That money is being wasted on an endeavor which will bear absolutely no fruit because it has no basis in science or reality but is a misinterpretation. Billions of dollars spent with no return on investment means there will be a predictable loss in quality of life and way of life due to no return on investment. For all the governments around the world who have sunken money into quantum tunneling research, future generations will have to work to pay that debt off. A claim that quantum tunneling has been observed has been declared. Investigating the source article closer reveals that the claim of quantum tunneling on the molecular scale cannot be verified. The world now has the correct interpretation of the double slit experiment.